Hi friends, today we are looking into an important current affairs issue for your GS3. It is regarding World Trade Organization, and World Trade Organization is an important topic under GS3. There are a lot of questions that were asked on both WTO and its agreements in both prelims and as well as mains. So it is important for GS3. And why we are discussing about this WTO today? Because recently, that means 3 to 4 days back, 12th Ministerial meet was held at Geneva, and they have come up with some decisions. We call it as Geneva package. Geneva package. So that is why we are discussing this issue now. Recently, that means 4 days back, in Geneva, all the 164 members of WTO, the representatives of 164 countries were met, and they agreed on some of the issues, and those decisions we collectively call it as Geneva package, and that is why we are discussing this issue. And this type of package came after 7 years. In the year 2015, the WTO met at Nairobi, and at that point of time we have come up with some decisions. We call it as Nairobi package. And in the year 2017, we have met in Argentina's capital, Argentina, and Argentina's capital at Buenos Aires. And after that, because of this COVID-19 and all, we could not meet, and now we are meeting in the year 2022, that we met already in Geneva, and next meeting we want to meet again immediately in the next year 2023 if everything goes well. And this meet happened for every 2 years until and unless there is an extraordinary reason, but otherwise they will meet for 2 years. And last time the package we got in the year 2015, and in the year 2017 we could not take any decision, and after that Corona, so that means after a gap of 7 years we have taken some concrete decisions. That is why this issue is important and the outcomes are important. Okay, so I will be very brief about this WTO and its purpose, and later I will directly enter into this Geneva package. See, WTO is an only international organization that deals with the rules of trade between different countries. So how trade must happen among the countries at the world level will be decided by the World Trade Organization, and World Trade Organization deals with the trading of both goods, services, and it also deals with the investment, and also deals with the movement of people, and it also includes it deals with the intellectual property rights, IPRs, intellectual property rights. And WTO is a forum to negotiate trade rules. That means a fair trade rules must be there in order to provide a level playing field for all the countries of the world in trading. So that means WTO is a forum. WTO is a forum in which we will negotiate for trade rules. Second one is WTO is also a forum for settling the economic disputes among themselves. So it's not just about rules and regulation, and if some violation of rule happen, and then we can settle the disputes also. We can settle the disputes also. So this is something about the World Trade Organization, and it has established in the year 1995. The discussions to earlier it was GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, and in the year 1984-85 with Uruguay round it has started, and in the year 1994 with Marrakesh round we have completed the discussion. In the year 1995 with the Dunkel proposals we established this World Trade Organization. India is a founding member of World Trade Organization, and after that 160, now the strength of now the total members of the World Trade Organization is 164. And again there is an importance to this WTO's ministerial meet of this 12th meet, because if you observe, last time we were met it in the 2017, last time we met it in the 2017, and after and during this 2017 we have seen how America ridicules this entire World Trade Organization by not appointing or by obstructing the appointment of the judges to the appellate authority, and that too America has used lot of sanctions on China, and China is also doing lot of things with the America. At one point of time, because of this COVID-19 and all pandemic, we are not thinking about WTO, but just go prior to the pandemic and all, we thought like, does really this WTO is becoming irrelevant? What is the purpose of this WTO? So that type of narration America has brought into the entire world politics. So at one point of time they wanted to weaken even World Trade Organization, and some people started preaching like, now we are all having different multilateral institution, perhaps WTO failed in bringing a level playing field or in resolving the disputes, that it has failed. That's what exactly the opinion that has created. But anyhow, after pandemic, now we are seeing what are the trade restrictions that are there because of the pandemic. It is created because of the pandemic, the total freight charges and all other abnormalities are happening. So at this point of time, that means at this crucial juncture, the World Trade Organization ministerial meeting has demonstrated the willingness of countries to keep talking and working together for upholding this multilateralism and globalization. That means this again showed a commitment among the different countries, like maybe some issues may happen, but we are all one, we are here to discuss, and we will discuss and we will uphold that globalization and multilateralism. So this meet has shown that strength, okay. And when we are taking a decision at WTO, World Trade Organization, all the decisions will be taken only on consensus, no voting, and any country has a veto. That means if one country don't agree, then they don't take decision, but all the decisions of the WTO takes only through the consensus. That is the beauty of this particular group, World Trade Organization. Okay, lot of discussions were happened during this WTO, but the 4 agreements on 4 different issues, the ministerial, the total group has come to an agreement on 4 issues, but lot of discussions were happened. So I am not getting into the different type of discussions, but I am only giving the points on which the members come to an agreement, and also one aspect of the discussion that were happened at WTO, because after 7 years it happened. So that is why it is very, very important, just have an idea, okay. Now I will give the 4 the decisions in 4 different aspects and their implications. First one, the first decision is on agriculture. And food security. And this agriculture is always a live issue in WTO, because all the developing world, they are especially focusing on this agriculture, because the 2001 Bali agreement specifically deals about providing some concession to the developing countries in agriculture, but unfortunately that has not came into effect. We are not implementing that what we are agreed in Bali fully, but anyhow we have taken some decision on this agriculture and food security. So what is that thing that we have taken in this? The members are agreed to a decision to exempt the food purchases by the United Nations World Food Programme for humanitarian purpose from any export restrictions. That means normally a country can impose export restrictions on its food grains. That means like how India recently banned and how recently India allowed the wheat exports. Likewise, every country is having a right to impose restrictions on its exports of agricultural commodities. But now what the members are agreed is, suppose if that food grains suppose if that food grains are exporting under United Nations World Food Program, then those restrictions are not applied here. That means without any restriction, whatever the food grains that you have collected under this World Food Program, you have to export from your country. So that is the first thing. And why we allowed? Because you have seen the food grain crisis in the world because of this Russia-Ukraine war. And in order to address that food security problem, we have taken this decision. But there is an exemption to this decision, like if a country impose any restriction on exports in order to meet its food security aspect, then it's okay. That means apart from securing the food security in your own country, for remaining purposes under World Food Program, you are not supposed to put any restrictions on this food grain export. So that is the first thing. That means this decision has taken to make more supplies of food grains to the world. Okay, this is one thing. There is another thing. There is another important aspect, on that we discussed it, but unfortunately we could not come to an agreement. That one is, it is India's demand. Actually, India demanded that whatever we have procured under this National Food Security Act or under this PDS, the government of India asked WTO to export these grains also. And you are all aware, like whatever the government collected under this PDS cannot export it to the world countries because WTO rules don't allow, because you collected with lot of subsidies. So we asked this exemption, but we did not get that exemption from the WTO. That is one aspect that India unable to get any benefit. The second aspect is when it comes to the agriculture. There are key demands for India related to public stockholding and subsidies on agriculture. See the public stockholding, second one. So public stockholding means stockholding. Just now I said government of India is storing lot of food grains of rice and wheat. Under PDS, they will use it for futuristic purposes. If you get any drought or any deficiency in the food grain production in the country, they will release these things. But the point is, I have already made I have given clear explanation with respect to public stockholding in the class itself. But again I am emphasizing, like this public stockholding is very important for a country like India to meet its food security needs. In the year 2013 Bali meet, we said like, okay, we will done away with this public stockholding because WTO rules don't allow this public stockholding because it creates an unfavorable playing field for the foreign countries. So that is the reason why WTO rules don't allow. In the year 2013 we agreed that we will completely done away with this public stockholding, but later the government in the year 2015 they said like, no, it is very important for our country. So until and unless a permanent solution is reached, you should allow me to have this public stockholding of food grains. Anyhow, in the year 2015 Nairobi meet, we agreed to that. But at least we expect like there will be a permanent solution to this public stockholding. That means till what time we are allowed to hold these food grains, because to meet the food security needs it is very important, and unfortunately we could not take any, that means WTO could not take any decision on this public stockholding of food grains. The another important aspect is with respect to the subsidies in agriculture. and India is always saying like the subsidies which we are giving in our country, you consider it as an umber box and blue box subsidies. The subsidies given in developed countries, you consider it as a green box subsidies, and you are allowing those subsidies, you are not allowing our subsidies. That to the limit that you have put like 10% of the total, the 10% of the total production, the subsidy should not reach the 10% of the production value, and that to the price index you should consider from 1984 to 86. Perhaps this is not the right way. Perhaps this is not the right way of, sorry, 86 to 88. 86 to 88. So perhaps this is not the right way of calculating the subsidy, but unfortunately we could not take any decision on that. So in agricultural front, with respect to the export of food grains under World Food Program, they have allowed that exports can be restricted by the domestic country if that purpose is to meet the food security of that own country. That means to meet the domestic food security, they can restrict that export, but otherwise for the World Food Program, whatever the grains that they are collecting, that must be sent without any restriction. So this is to provide some sort of humanitarian assistance, and the purpose of this decision is to make sure that the food grains must be available, accessible, affordable to the global humanity, because we are facing an humanitarian crisis. So this is one aspect that have taken a decision on agriculture and food security. So this is very disappointing for the government of India, very disappointing, because they have not taken any decision on what exactly we need. This anyway, it is in the interest of global community, but not in the interest of India alone. So that is agriculture. Next, second aspect is, it is with respect to the fisheries, and this fisheries issue was actually debating for so many years. Since 2001, this issue was there in WTO's agenda. The issue is simple. It is with respect to the subsidies given to the fishermen. Subsidies given to the fishermen. The idea is, the point is, lot of people are against to the huge amount of subsidies given by some of the countries to their fishing community. Because of that subsidies, they are able to exploit huge amount of this marine resources. That is having its own serious implications on both humanity and as well as the environment. Because if you able to grab the entire fish, then what about others? So that is the important aspect, and since 2001 it was in discussion, and initially government of India expressed a different view, but anyhow in this ministerial meet we got a favorable decision on this fisheries aspect. And what are the decisions that we have taken in this? The first one is, the WTO ministerial meet has taken a decision to curb the harmful subsidies, on IUU fishing. So what is this IUU fishing? It is illegal, unreported, unregulated. Illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, on that the harmful subsidies are curbing for next 4 years. So for next 4 years there is no subsidies on this. So that is the first decision that they have taken. The second important decision is, it also curbs the subsidies to the fishing of overfished stock. That means for fishing subsidies you can give, but for overfishing you are not supposed to provide any subsidies, because the problem is not with the fishing, the problem is with the overfish. So how can you define an overfish? Overfish means the rate at which you are exploiting is more than the rate at which the fish is replenishing in the waters. And here, according to some United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, they mentioned it as 34%. That means if you are able to catch only 34%, then it is sustainable. Otherwise it is not sustainable. You can call it as overfishing. But anyhow, no subsidies on this IUU fishing and no subsidies on this overfishing. Next, third decision is there would be no limitation on subsidies granted or maintained by the developing or least developed countries for fishing in their exclusive economic zones. So, in the exclusive economic zone, if it is not overfishing and to go for a fishing, the governments can provide the subsidies. That means beyond exclusive economic zone you are not supposed to provide the subsidies, because beyond the exclusive economic zone means it is international waters. Sometimes beyond your exclusive economic zone of your country may be the exclusive economic zone of other country. So in this beyond exclusive economic zone, that means you are all aware 200 nautical miles is exclusive economic zone. So after that there is no subsidy. You are not supposed to enter into international waters and exploit the resources, exploit the fisheries and all other, which how much ever you want. That cannot be possible. But you can go and you can do that, but subsidies are not provided. The subsidies will be provided only in this. And Government of India's argument is also that, see, if you want to curb the subsidies, curbs beyond 200 nautical miles, but within the zone it is our own people will go for a fishing, and there are many people who are depending on this fish, and across the globe around 260 million people are depending on this fish directly and indirectly. So we must incentivize them, otherwise they can't go for a fishing, because some people who can go for a high investment, who are having the technological facilities, they can only exploit the resources. And this is one important thing which is important for India. It benefits India because Government of India want to provide lot of benefits to the fishermen in order to improve their economic status and in order to increase the fishing activity in the country. So this is one important thing, exclusive economic zone, subsidies can be provided. This is very important thing. So these are the three things that are decided in WTO Ministerial meet on fisheries. And if you looking into the implications, the point is, some people say like, okay, anyhow you have put curb on some harmful subsidies on IUU fishing and overfishing, so it is good. It is good because at least you heard when we are demanding from 2001, at least you heard now. And in this ministerial meet with respect to the fisheries, they use the word environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability. That means this body is also sustainability. This body is also now focusing on the environmental sustainability. That is also a good aspect, and it is good to many of the developing countries like India, because it will help the people in their own countries, and it will also allow the respective governments to take any measures for the welfare of the fishermen community in that countries. Next, and some people, the environmentalists who are critical, they are arguing like, you say like curb for 4 years, but you haven't removed it completely, so it is mere a lip service but not a complete commitment towards the protecting the environment and marine resources. That is another criticism that you can make on this. So this is about fisheries. Next, third aspect where we have taken a decision is, it is related to moratorium on electronic transmissions. Electronic transmissions. I will come to electronic transmissions. See, initially India was reluctant to join in these talks. Because at that point of time India's argument is like, we were not so comfortable with the trade in this aspect, so we don't know the intricacies and nitty-gritties of that particular issue, and at this point of time if you join in this, the developed countries may frame the rules in favor of them and may take the decisions in favor of them, and obviously it will affect the developing and least developed countries. So that is the India's opinion, but anyhow India has joined now. So in this member countries are agreed to extend the current moratorium on not imposing custom duties on electronic transmissions. So that means there was a moratorium on imposing customs duties on electronic transmissions. on electronic transmissions. So what is this electronic transmissions? You should be very careful. Normally we call it as e-commerce, but there is a difference between e-commerce and this. Here it includes electronically ordered, electronically delivered. These are comes under this. Sometimes you will order electronically, but it delivers physically. Suppose if I want to purchase a mobile from Abu Dhabi or UK, I will give my order in online, but the product comes directly, physically. That won't comes under this. The products which I ordered electronically, which will be delivered electronically, comes under this. So what are those things? Like music, e-books, films, softwares, video games, they are all comes under this. Now when you are receiving these things, this is also a foreign product, and the sovereign government have an every right to tax it, but WTO rule has imposed a moratorium on this taxation on these items. Now we are extending that moratorium up to 2024 March 31st or till the next ministerial meet of 2023, whichever is earlier. That means when we are importing that electronic transferable items, the government of India should not impose the customs duty on that, and it is something not in the interest of India. And not only in the interest of India, it is not in the interest of other countries also, because now the majority of the market players in this thing is developed countries, because they are producing more, and the developing countries are only at the receiving end. We are the one who is importing all these things. Some people like developed countries, they hail this decision because this particular decision will give some sort of certainty and predictability in this particular business, because we are in COVID-19. This business is completely because in this unpredictable condition, at least this decision provides some sort of certainty. That is what the developed countries are saying. But when it comes to the developing world, they are saying like it results in loss of at least $10 billion of income per annum to this developing world, because we are not imposing any customs duty on that. The purpose of customs duty is if someone is dumping their product, and if someone's product is creating some sort of problem to the domestic producers, and that too the producers who are at the nascent stage, in order to protect that domestic nascent industry, the governments will use custom duties as a mean to protect them. But today you are saying like you are not supposed to impose it, and we are losing the revenue is one aspect, we are going to lose the revenue is one aspect, and you can't protect your own domestic industry is second aspect. So domestic industry you can't protect. So these are the two problems that developing world is going to face. But in the year 1998, it is all the countries who agreed that there should not be taxation on this electronic transfers in the year 1998, the same WTO members, because at that point of time it was the very initial years after introducing this internet. So everyone need that services, that is why they said like no need of taxation, freely we can use that. But now everyone is having the taxation, and mostly these people are developing lot of applications on that. Now the developing world is importing lot of that applications. Now they are saying like when we are importing lot, when we are already having a technology, why can't we impose the tax on that? So it is a sovereign right. But WTO said like no, you are not supposed to impose any tax at least for next 1 year. And if the meet happened in 2023, it's okay, but otherwise it will extend up to 2024. Okay. So the custom duties have been traditionally used to avoid the undesired surge in imports and protect the nascent domestic industries. Perhaps now you don't get that protection. So this is something about electronic transmissions. Next, the fourth one is important. The intellectual property waiver or the patent relaxation on this COVID-19 vaccines, and it was South Africa and India are demanding for this, like there must be a TRIPS waiver on this COVID-19 vaccine, and now they have given that relaxation, the patent relaxation until 2027. That means 2027 whoever is producing that vaccine, he no need to pay any royalty to the manufacturer, the original manufacturer. That means now India can start producing any vaccine without paying any royalty to the others, and they must also transfer the technology to India. That is what the meaning of this. When there is no royalty means if you signed an agreement, they also should transfer that technology to you. So this decision is very, very important, because because in other video in profiteering from pandemic, I already explained the pharmaceutical giants are making lot of profits because they are not giving that formula to other manufacturing companies to produce that vaccines, and they themselves producing, and they are getting huge profits on that, and because of that there is a limited production. Because of that limited production, there is a limited availability. Some countries are going for second dose, third dose, booster dose and advanced doses, but some countries are not even getting a single dose. So you should not allow that disparity. Because of that we demanded for that, and anyhow we got that benefit. Now some countries, in some manufacturing units, pharmaceutical manufacturing units in India and some other country, they can get the formula from other countries and they can start producing without paying any royalties, so that the vaccines are available and affordable and even accessible to the accessible to the whole humanity. So this is very important in order to contain the spread of the pandemic, because we cannot comfortably say like we are out of pandemic. But there are and even they ask the members of the country to waive the export restrictions. Even the export restrictions also should not be there, like I don't export beyond a particular point of vaccines, or I don't export this technology, or I don't export that. But in exports also they have given some relaxation. Now when it comes to these implications of this decision, one is it's too late, but anyhow it is going to help to some extent. Especially the African continent and some of the countries in our India's neighbor also, because they did not get the full vaccine, they are still depending on foreign countries. But when it comes to India, is it really going to benefit India fully? Because this is not the exact demand what we have made at the WTO. The demand is, it includes both the patent should be removed from both vaccine and diagnostic related equipments and even therapeutics. That means on medicines or therapeutics and diagnostic equipment and vaccines, on these three things there must be a waiver, but they have given waiver only to the vaccines. Now when it comes to the India, in this context, vaccine waiver will not help India, because India is already having its own domestic vaccines and we are producing and we have vaccinated many people, and even we are exporting. It's not going to help much India. And moreover, even if they are ready to come to India, even if they are ready to share the knowledge, but in India the procedure of some of the vaccines are so complex, like mRNA vaccines. Some already we got some technology and some biological e-limit and other vaccines we are producing, but the logistics is very difficult. See, tomorrow if Moderna and Pfizer came to India, they are ready to give formula. Even if you produce, in order to use it you need much logistics, because you need to store it in a cooler temperature, like minus temperatures, and you must deliver within a time, otherwise it will go wasted. So lot of logistical problems, and procedure is also so complex. Even if they give that, there is no much use to India on the front of vaccines. But had they given the exemption to both therapeutics and diagnostic kits, probably India might have used its benefit, and India might have produced more, because India is a hub of pharmaceuticals. India could have easily produced these medicines and diagnostic kits. So probably that could have been given. Had that waiver given in therapeutics and diagnostics, probably India might have get more benefit. But it's not so big benefit to the India, but at least it is a benefit to the humanity, entire whole humanity, especially those countries which are not having an access to the vaccine even today. Okay, this is something about the COVID-19 vaccine. So these are the 4 major decisions taken at the WTO level and its implications. The 4 major decisions and its implications. And apart from these 4 major decisions, there were some serious discussion happened with respect to the reforms in World Trade Organization. See, this reforms in World Trade Organization is a debatable reforms in WTO. And this reforms in WTO, I myself has made a video. It was already available in Amrita YouTube channel. You can watch it. But I'll just mention few points. There were no consensus on these reforms in WTO, but some developing countries, even some developed countries are also demanding for reforms at WTO. And these committees to open and here the proceedings of WTO must be the open and inclusive. That is what one of their demand. And one of the most important demand is this appellate mechanism is one important thing, because since 2020 this issue has been raised and we are not able to strengthening this appellate mechanism. And if you don't strengthen the appellate mechanism, you cannot bring the confidence on this institute, because this organization WTO is struggling with delivers on what they have mandated. So on what they are committing, that means today they have signed many agreements. It's very good to know that if one country don't abide with the decisions, or if some countries violate the provisions of this agreement, or if they misquote or misrepresent or misinterpret the agreement, then there must be a dispute settlement body, and on the dispute settlement above there is an appellate body. Until and unless if you strengthen this dispute settlement and appellate bodies, you cannot expect this WTO will function effectively, because WTO's functionality will completely depending on to what extent we are able to implement the decisions effectively. If you are not implementing the decisions effectively which are taken at the WTO ministerial meet, there is no use in that meeting and there is no use in the deliberations. So that implementation is very, very important, and in that implementation process, if something goes wrong, there must be a dispute resolution mechanism and an appellate body which solves the issues and which will give justice and which will punish the one who has not followed with that provisions. Then only the countries is having a confidence on World Trade Organization. So this is one important issue that came up for discussion, but they haven't taken any decision. And apart from this settlement, apart from this appellate body and dispute settlement resolution mechanism, there are many other issues that are there. Some of the issues are demanding from the developed world. Some of the issues that are demanding from the developing world, especially like India. Some people say, some developing countries say like, no, you should respect the development models. You should not, when it comes to the public sector undertakings of developing countries, you must respect them and you must treat the small and medium industries of the developing countries in a different way. You should not treat on par with others. But when it comes to the developed world, they are saying like this, giving special treatment, special and differential treatment, whatever that you are giving to this developing countries, you must use it carefully, because some of the developed countries are also claiming as the developing countries and they are using it. And when it comes to the consensus approach, perhaps this is not the right thing. On every decision it is very difficult to get the consensus, so you must change it. And when it comes to the committee system, we must strengthen the committee system, because in this WTO all the decisions taken by that ministerial meet only, but you must strengthen that committees. And developed countries say like, no, this public sector companies are public sector enterprises, they are providing lot of subsidies, but we are not considering them. Like when it comes to the administration appellate, when it comes to the treating of different countries, developed world and developing world both are having some concern, and that is what exactly comes under the reforms at the WTO. But anyhow, this ministerial meet has not taken any specific decision on that. Okay, but there were lot of deliberations. And when it comes to the COVID-19 therapeutics and drugs, therapeutics and the diagnostic thing, they said like within 6 months there is a committee looking into whether we can bring them, we can give an exemption from them, we can give the exemption from IPR. So, but the point is, whatever the time limits that were placed in WTO, we all know that we don't abide with these time limits, it goes on extending. But as on today, there is no waiver of IPR on this diagnostic and therapeutics of COVID-19, only on vaccine itself. Within 6 months they constitute a committee, but anyhow this may not become reality, because if you observe the history of WTO, you can understand it. Okay. So these are some of the issues mentioned it in WTO Ministerial Meet, 12th WTO Ministerial Meet. Be careful, only 4 issues: agriculture and food security, fisheries, electronic transmissions, and 4th one is with respect to this waiver of IPR on COVID-19 vaccines. Okay. So this is something about 12th Ministerial Meet of World Trade Organization at Geneva and Geneva package. Okay, thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.